You're welcome all the same. We will want to look at social engineering and then phishing today as we progress. Over the week, we have been looking at several techniques that cyber threat actors normally, deploy. As a matter of fact, I think we should also know that aside the fact that there should be or there are threat actors, if there were no threat actors, then there will be nothing like cyber security. There will be nothing like you wanting to secure stuff, right? So the essence of cyber security is because we have threat actors. The essence why we practice security generally is because anybody around you can decide to cause harm to you, right? Because everybody is a potential risk, is a potential threat actor around you, just that they have not, showcased that that part of them. So without the threat actors, there will be nothing like cybersecurity. So the essence of cybersecurity is for us to really understand threat actors, how they behave, what are their techniques, what are their tactics, and what are their procedures, right? So we look at technique, tactics, and procedures of these guys, right? So in our last class, we are looking at some of the techniques that they normally use to carry out their attacks, right? Or what should you see for you to believe or know that okay, this is actually a cyber threat actor trying to carry out a particular attack, right? So these are some of the things that we have seen over the period of our classes, and we have also explained to us, I believe by now everybody understands the concept of the cyberspace. Everybody knows what threats are, and everybody know what or who threat actors are. So threat actors are those people that can actually carry out their threats. So like I told us in one of our classes, everybody around you is actually a threat actor, right? So it is the action of that threat actor that determines the type of attack that that person wants to carry out on you. So, and that is why we also have decided to look at some of the ways these threat actors carry out these attacks, otherwise known as their techniques and tactics, right? So we looked at things like ransomware, like malware, categories or sub categories of malware. We look at viruses, ransomware, worms, trojans, and all whatnot, right? So we also look at denial of service attack technique that a threat actor can decide to carry out or deploy a technique or a tactics to deny you or his target access to the necessary resources that the person should be exposed to, right? So apart from deploying malware, that's ransomware, antivirus, and the likes. Apart from using that technique, they can also do what we call a denial of service attack. They can also decide to put you in their botnets where they're using carrying out several attacks. So for today, the technique we'll be looking at is social engineering. So social engineering is another technique that these threat actors normally use also. So apart from the fact that maybe a threat actor can design a malware, whether it's a spyware, whether it's an adware, whether it's a virus, whether it's a worm, whether it's a trojan, whatever it is, rootkit or whatever it is, any backdoor. So aside from the fact that maybe a threat actor can design that and push out over the internet to your system, aside the fact that a threat actor can cause you a denial of service, right? A threat actor can also deploy a technique known as social engineering. So if you look at the terms here, they are quite terms that are apart from itself. Social, how you relate with people, right? Engineering, bringing out or using technical, let me use the word technical, look, using crude way to do things, right? Using crude way to do things, right? Engineering, then social, relationship with people. So you can actually say, okay, using a crude way to relate with people, right? So that can be a literal meaning of that, social engineering. So when we say crude way to relate with people, that's you're using crude way, which means you are using like crooked kind of way to relate with, right? So by definition, we say social engineering is a manipulation of people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. So you manipulate people when you are doing social engineering, right? So an act whether you try to lure people or try to make people not to really know what they are doing in order for them to divulge some sensitive information, to give out some confidential information that they are not supposed to give out, right? So when you are doing that, using that crude methodology, we refer to it as social engineering. So remember that we have used the word, or we looked at the word social at first, and we also are looking at the word engineering, right? So we have looked at the word social, and we also are looking at the word engineering. So, and I explained that engineering is when you're using crude way to do things, to solve problems, crude way, right? So whether it is crooked, whether it is fine or whatever, you don't care about that. Yours is just to get the tax done, right? And then social, how you relate with people. So you are using crude way to relate with people in order for you to get a particular thing out of them. So in essence, social engineering, you try to manipulate people to do what they are not supposed to do. So this is where psychology come in, right? So, and also there are two sides to it. So as people that are into peace and conflict resolution, you can actually learn social engineering to be able to, psych whoever, you want to psych for the person to maybe bring in peace or resolve a conflict for the people of bringing peace and resolving conflicts, right? So you can also learn these techniques and tactics on how to manipulate it, because most of the cyber criminals today, as a matter of fact, over 70% of the crimes that happen today are being aided by this means, whereby people take advantage of human weaknesses, right? They take advantage of human weaknesses. And that is because every human being has a weakness, right? Every human being has a weakness. As a matter of fact, every asset, everything that is of importance, right, in life has a weakness or have their weaknesses, right? But for human beings alone, every human being have weaknesses, right? At one point or the other, as humans, we tend to be greedy, right? So no matter how good you appear to be, there are times that as human beings you must be greedy or you will be greedy, because somebody can bring an ideology that we know that they know that, okay, with this ideology you always stand upright to this ideology, right? And for the fact that you want to protect the interests of that ideology, you can fall into greed, right? So every human being is greedy, right? And every human being also appeal to vanity. Even if I come and say, okay, I want to start dashing everybody in this class $10,000, and you say, okay, you don't like vanity, so you will not collect. There are still other things that somebody will always want to present and you will be interested in, right? So human beings will appeal to vanity, right? And also most human beings yield to authority. Most of us yield to authority. There is no how that your boss in the office tries to tell you something, or the person that employs you is telling you something, that you will not want to listen to that authority. Or maybe the president is saying something and you don't want to listen to that authority, right? So human beings have that quality of, of obeying or appealing to an authority, right? And for the fact that we have all of these characteristics, it is very easy for somebody to want to manipulate you using all of these characteristics, right? So that's why we wrote that the method for this social engineering appeal to vanity, greed, weaknesses, and authority. Some of us are just wicked, right? And somebody can also leverage on the fact that you're a wicked person to actually carry out a social engineering activity on either you or your organization, right? And then there are several ways, there are several types, and narrowing the arrow down, there are several types of social engineering, both physically and virtually, right? Online, right? So physically, we look at social engineering and we list several types of them. One of such is what we refer to as tailgating. Somebody behind your back working with you in order to gain access to a building or something, or to gain access to a particular structure or office or building. That is what we refer to as tailgating. I believe almost all of us here have become, let me not say become victim though, but we have aided these things, right? Most of us here have aided what we refer to as tailgating. So tailgating is an act whereby a malicious person follows behind your back in order for them to gain access to a resources that they don't have access to. In order for them to gain unauthorized access to resources. So that tailgating is also synonymous with what we call piggybacking. Piggybacking and tailgating are similar techniques, right? Remember, when we say tail, your back is your tail, right? Gates, entering gates, every gate allows you to enter a place. So somebody tells you for them to gain access to a particular gate. So all of these times that you are in the hold up, you are not hold up now, you are at what is it called? A lift. Somebody say hold it, hold it, hold it, and is running to come and join in that lift. You don't even know if that person went through or have the authority or authorized access to actually use that lift. So for those of us that are familiar with Transcorp, I think we helped them implemented some of this access control there. So that's the white guys there. So what normally happens is if you have a card that, and your room is in maybe floor 3, for instance, so your card can never allow you use the lift to floor 7. Your card will only allow you use the lift to floor 3. So imagine somebody that have a card that can lead him to floor 7, for instance, and somebody like myself just rush in there. I've gone through the checks in the gate and in the entrance, the reception, and I just walk into the lift, and I'm shouting, "Hold it, hold it!" And I now go to the lift and I see somebody that have the access card for floor 7 entering, and my target is in floor 7. Definitely, you notice that I will access floor 7 with that person's card because the person has held the lift from me. And the moment the person is leaving, I'm also following the person to gain access to where I actually don't have authorized access to. So that is a technique to manipulate. You are manipulating that person to allow you because the person does not even suspect you, right? So you just used a skill that you have to actually tailgate that person to gain access to where you're not supposed to gain access to, right? So that's tailgating. Another technique that is also a technique of social engineering that have to do with the physical, social engineering aside tailgating is what we refer to as dumpster diving. Dumpster diving. Now, these things are mostly, like I told us in one of our classes, you see them physically, you can also see them virtually in the virtual space, in the cyberspace, right? So if we are looking at dumpster diving, just like those of us in the northern part of Nigeria, we have these people they call Mebolas, right? And you see them at times, they are putting their hands inside dirty, scouting for stuffs, right? Scavenging for things, right? In all of those, waste bins and the likes, right? So what they are doing, we call them in cybersecurity, we call them dumpster diving. Dump, your refuse dump, right? Then dump star, right? Then to dive into water. So dumpster diving. Most times we look at these people and we just say, okay, they are so dirty, they are people that packs dirt. But some of those persons, what they have discovered that people have actually thrown away, what they have made from dumpster diving is always, it might be even more than somebody's salary. Just this waste bin, you see them picking around and throwing away for us. At times, you notice that what they have made from that stuff is even bigger than people's salary that works in the office, all just because they are doing dumpster diving. So most of those guys, we all know, their main duty is not just to come and pick your debts and go and throw them. When you give them debts, what they will do is to search that that refuse dump, and then pick all the things that are important to them. And most times they don't even have a place they go and throw those deaths. They'll still remove it and throw around your area, especially if their what is it called truck is filled already. Right. So what they are doing, we call it, although we can call it scavenging physically, but the cyberspace, we have a name for that. We call that dumpster diving. So dumpster diving in the virtual space is found mostly whenever all those things that you have deleted, you think you have deleted them, right? So you just delete it. You don't want people to see it. All of those things can still be traced. So most cyber criminals are not interested in what you actually have on the system because they believe that you must have, deleted all the things that you don't want and then remove all that will implicate you. They will know that, and then when they know all of these things, instead of them now coming to maybe start asking or looking for something that they know possibly that you must have deleted, what they'll just do is to go into your refuse, your delete folder, your recycle bin. So like I used to do then, if I pick a system, I don't go to any folder, I don't go to start looking for whatever I want to make, especially if I'm doing an investigation, right? So what I just do is you pick that system, the first place to go to is recycle bin, right? To check when last the recycle bin was empty, and then all the files that came into the recycle bin, right? So most times cyber criminals are interested more in your recycle bin and your deleted folder than even in the device. So if I pick your system or I pick your phone, I don't go to check your text messages or all of those things, the WhatsApp messages. No. Those are not the things we look out for, but rather the delete folder, right? That's what a cyber criminal is interested in. And so when they get into your phone, they're not looking at all those apps that you have there, but rather they'll go and look for all those things that you have actually deleted, because those are the things that will give them some a better information about you than yourself, because they believe that is where you hide, and all of those things, hide stuff and things that you have had there that maybe you don't want any other person to know about, you delete them, right? So all of those things. Now, to cop that, we always advise that you use forensic tools to delete, right? So use forensic tools to delete, digital forensic tools to delete. As a matter of fact, they used to tell us in digital forensic classes that the best way to even delete an item from an electronic device is to drill into that item. That's to say you are no more using that item. You drill into it with several holes and then maybe burn it or throw it into the water body. So that's the only time you will say, okay, this thing cannot be retrieved, right, from this device any longer. So, like I've said, dumpster diving is another technique whereby you give out a refuse dump and these people dive into it to fetch important information. Most times we see it in our offices. Somebody just finished doing something, you just fold the paper and throw it into the refuse bin. That is totally wrong. And so, as a cybersecurity expert, you must know and learn how to properly, discard this type of documents, right? And that is why even when I go about training organizations and ministry on, cybersecurity, I always encourage and advise them that there must be a shredding machine in your office. There must be a shredding machine in your office. You don't throw papers anyhow. You must shred them, right? A shredder, I think, is not expensive. So everybody, you must at least provide a shredder in your office so that Mr. Peter or Mr. 18, that is the cleaner, will not tomorrow go and dump that refuse bin, or go and do dumpster diving in that refuse bin and gain information. And that is why we always tell people also that all those your messengers, your cleaners, your what is it called now, facility manager staff, management staff, all of those people are the people that really own your organization. You and I don't actually own our organization, but you see these persons, these people I've mentioned, they are the ones that own the organization, because most of those files that you think you have thrown on the waste bin, they go about, they'll read them, they know almost everybody's name, they know addresses of persons. And imagine all of this information are in the hand of maybe a cleaner, and you're paying that cleaner just 50,000 naira, and then the cyber criminal comes and decides to pay that person 500,000 naira just to gain that information from that person. You know that the cleaner will definitely do that. And that is why we also encourage people to always bring, those type of low-level staffs for trainings and all of those things. We are still discussing dumpster diving as a technique of social engineering. And we have told us that you don't destroy or throw away, just squeeze and throw away, items that are of value to you, right? And if you are looking at the items that on your digital devices, I told us use forensic tools to always clean and wipe. And this one, I always tell my PhD students that whatever it is that should not get into your phone shouldn't get into your phone. Whatever it is that shouldn't get into any of your digital devices should not find its way into any of your digital devices. Because the moment you have put anything on any of your digital devices, it can be made available to anybody, right? So don't ever think that you have actually deleted and formatted and all of whatnot. Even if you use forensic tools, the only thing that will happen is for it to delay. The anti-forensic tools, it's to make it, delay discovery. But like I say, it will always be discovered, right? But nobody will want to sit for 10 to 20 years trying to scan or open what you have done. That's why we say use forensic tools to delete. Because even though they use other forensic tools to, to bring it back or recover, it will take a longer time for them to be able to recover that. Right. So that's shoulder surfing is that's a dumpster diving is a technique of social engineering. We also have shoulder surfing. So shoulder surfing, we can relate that to what happens when you are giraffing in the exam hall, right? So you giraffe, it means you are looking across somebody's head and somebody's shoulder to see what they are written, right? And that is why we call it shoulder and surfing. So shoulder, your shoulder, right? Surfing, you are like browsing, you are surfing things, right? So shoulder surfing is also another technique. And like I use the word like giraffing, although that setting is for examination setting actually. But in the general setting, you are in a vehicle or a public car, you are pressing your phone, you are opening your mobile app, you are putting your password and all of those things. People can just be sitting there with you in that car and then shoulder surf you. So shoulder surfing is just when somebody tries to pick or get information from you when you don't notice, right? You don't always notice that, and the person is just, throwing their eyes or giraffing to get this information. So we refer to it as shoulder surfing. And for you to mitigate this, we have advised people not to, you know, operate their devices in public places because some of us will want to show off. And so we want to operate our devices in public places where everybody will see that, yes, you have this device or you're using this particular type of device, right? So that is that for shoulder surfing. Do not operate your devices in public or crowded places. As a matter of fact, most times it's hard for you to see me using my phone in a public vehicle, especially to do sensitive things. Most time, if you want to use your device in public places, I always use mine to maybe read news or read a particular novel or something. So if you're in a public place and you really want to make use of your phone, then it should be on something that is neutral. Because the moment you start doing some sensitive things using your phone, you don't know who is who that can actually pick that information. So if you're assuming that you're traveling for an 8 hours journey, for instance, and you have done transfer with your phone, and somebody has showed herself you to pick your password of your phone and also the password of your mobile app, right? And then maybe let's say you fall asleep in the vehicle. Person have access to the phone, put in your password, put in the password of your bank app, and then made away with your money and then delete the message. I hope you know that you will not even know until you maybe get to your destination or something like that. So these are the impact of things like shoulder surfing, right? So do not operate your device in public places. If you are in the office, always make sure that the office setting is corrected. So for those of us that have offices, when you go to your office, just make sure that the pattern of your office is in a pattern that you are sitting and backing the wall or a closed environment whereby people will never pass through your back. So you do it, you must sit in a position whereby people doesn't pass through your back and there's no way somebody can, look through to see you. So what I'm saying is, for instance, if there's a wall in my house and then I have two windows, right? So what I will do is my chair will be backing the wall, right? And then my system will be facing me. Now, this is to prevent people from moving about around me, behind me, and then beside me, right? Without, the necessary permissions, right? So if I'm in the office environment, that is how I should do it to prevent shoulder surfing. And then also do not connect to every free Wi-Fi. Do not connect to that because some of these social engineers will be looking around to just see you coming and then get hold of your details and information. So free Wi-Fi is not really free, right? So now, these are some of the techniques, the social engineering techniques that have to do with physical security. Now, the ones that have to do with virtual, we have what we call pretexting. So pretexting is a technique whereby somebody crafts a legitimate information, a legitimate text message, and send to you, right? So imagine I pick Mr. Wale's phone, and then I know that Mr. Timi is always very close to Mr. Wale, and then use or agrees to whatever Mr. Wale says. And I now, coin a message, right? Craft a message, and then send to, I just wait for Mr. Wale to step out of his office. I pick his system and forward that message to, let's say, Rotimina. There is nothing on earth that will tell Rotimi that this information or this message is not coming from his boss, right? For him to act on it. So pretexting is when, somebody crafts a good message, and sent to you, but their intentions are malicious, right? So we also have the quid pro quo. Pardon my pronunciation though, but it's quid pro quo, right? Yeah, quid pro quo, right? Which means something for something, right? Robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So that is quid pro quo, right? Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now that's a technique they use. And just like I told us that, okay, our security men, our cleaners, our facility management staff are the one that holds most of the information about us and our organization, right? And then somebody comes and offer them a particular amount of money just to get those details. Now that technique is what we refer to as quid pro quo, right? Quid pro quo, right? So that is the technique that we are looking at. Something for something. Somebody is giving you money for you to divulge, a particular information. And like I told us, remember, we have established that we have these characteristics of being greedy. As human beings, we have the characteristics of being greedy. So somebody comes to somebody, you working in the bank as a messenger in the bank, and tells you, okay, I want a snapshot of all the people that collected ATM today, right? Want a snapshot of all the people that, and I'll give you maybe 1 million naira, and that messenger is earning, let's say, 70,000 naira in the bank. And somebody say, okay, just snap this information and send to me, and I'll give you 1 million naira. Do you think that person will not do it? No, that person will definitely do that type of a thing. So because there's something involved. So that's what we refer to as something for something. So we see this on daily basis. We see this on daily basis. People offering you something to get something. As a matter of fact, when we say, okay, when we say this, we just look at it as what we used to define, commerce to be, right? Or used to define commerce to be, you have something to offer and somebody is paying to get that thing. So something must go for something, right? That is what quid pro quo is, right? So there are other types of the ones that are virtually done, like whaling, like smishing, like phishing, and all whatnot. But as we progress, one of the major one we'll be looking at will be phishing. Because phishing is actually a social engineering technique that today everybody is proud to say that it is standing on its own, because technology is actually growing bigger and bigger, right? So we'll look at phishing as also a technique in social engineering. And why we actually are talking about this, it is because we want to gain unauthorized access to several information and systems in the school. So I believe want to gain this information. I think that is why these social engineers actually engage or indulge in these whole things, right? So aside from every other technique, I say we'll be looking at the technique phishing. Phishing, right? So phishing is actually a social engineering technique that is used to achieve several things, right? So we say it is a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information by impersonating legitimate entities, right? So phishing now is purely done virtually, unlike others that we have looked at earlier. Now we see they have the physical component. Phishing is one of the virtual and most viable, form of social engineering that these cyber criminals always leverage on, right? And the name is drawn from the fact that people go to the sea to actually fish, right? So the concept is the same concept about going to the river to fish. But if you look at this, we remove the F and used PH. We remove the F and we are using PH, right? So just like we go to the river to fish, we have your hook, your sink, your hook, sinker, and what is it called? So to go and your lining, to go and to go fishing, right? The most important thing in that hook, lining, and sinker is your bait. So without bait, no fish will draw close, right? So what these criminals did was to adopt that pattern whereby they use a bait to bait you so that you can actually, take the bait and then fall prey to their gimmicks. That is why we say, okay, it is actually fraudulent, and most times it has to do with involving technicality, right? So you must know how to maybe write a little script if you want to take over somebody's system, right? Write a little script to do that, right? So phishing has to do with fraudulent means of gaining sensitive information, right? And phishing is spread through so many means, right? Most of the email messages we have on our Google, our Gmail today are actually phishing mails, right? They are phishing mails. Some of us know, right? Most of the mails you have to do in your Gmail are actually phishing mails. Where somebody will tell you, "Hello, Mr. Peter. My name is so and so. I'm from so and so place. You have to. There is a need for urgency on this. So please click on this to do this, or copy the link and use for this." All of those type of messages are phishing messages. Doesn't come via only emails. It come via social media handles and WhatsApp platform. You see people posting and telling you to send your information for a job and all whatnot, or they want to give you something and they're demanding for your information in the on the banks, right? So what they are doing is whenever you see any message that has to do with too good to be true type of greeting, right? It should be an indicator that this might be phishing. Generic greeting will mean that when somebody knows you, somebody knows you and is to send a message to you, that person normally addresses you by your name. I cannot say, dear anybody, application for this. If I say, dear Mr. Peter, application for so, it gives Mr. Peter the knowledge to know that, okay, it's like this guy really knows me, right? So that is what we are talking about here. So your greeting, or so if you see a message that is greeting you with a generic greeting, good morning, dear customer, or dear customer, or dear all of those type of message are messages that might, be phishing message. So generic greeting is an indicator. When they say dear user, dear customer, if the person really knows you and wants to send message to you, they should be able to, address you by your name, right? Then the second indicator and the second way they normally operate is they give you a sense of urgency. You see, you have to do it now, or you to lose this, that. So whenever you sense any spirit of urgency, just know that it can be phishing. Then the third one is suspicious links and attachment. Please, you are advised not to download any link online, except you have done your multiple verification on that link and know that, okay, the link does not have anything to sabotage your resources, right? Before you download it. Otherwise, all links are suspicious and all attachments are suspicious. And now, remember, I'm both telling you this as people that are working and also people that are in the class, right? So even if you go and see it in any other context, that, okay, not all links are malicious. Just put this one in your head that for me, all links are malicious, are suspicious. Why? Because before a link is created and sent to you, the person that created that link has an intention. And for the fact that the person that created that link has an intention and is a potential threat, everybody has the potential to cause harm. So that person also have the potential to cause harm. So that is why I believe that every link, attachment, or whatever it is coming from any source, if not, um, confirm and reconfirm or validated, then do away with such link or file. So suspicious link or attachment, urgent call to action, generic greeting, right? They are all indicators. There's other indicators like looking at the domain in which the information comes from, right? If the domain is, what is it called now? If the domain have gibberish words, so for instance, the domain is supposed to be like peter@gmail.com, and you are saying something like syqz@gmail.com. So that kind of a thing should raise suspicion, right? And now, what are the impact of phishing? So no matter how uninterested we think we can be without phishing, right? There are quite some impact that people have used phishing to achieve. And one of such is personal data. Data breaches happen almost daily now in the world, where people save out your data and steal your data to go and pay or sell them in the dark web, right? So imagine you losing your personal data like your name, address, your basic information, right? Imagine you feel all of that and send to somebody and they take it somewhere or take it somewhere. And I'm talking of loss of personal data, right? So somebody takes the data and sells it right? In the dark web. So somebody sells it in the dark web, and the person they sell it to is using it to impersonate you, right? And everybody thinks that it's actually you that is doing that. So that is a damage to yourself. So if you lost your personal data, there's also reputational damage, there's also financial, theft, right? As impact. Some people can steal your money while sitting in your network. I hope you know that social engineering a particular information, right? So financial theft can be is an impact. Loss of personal data is an impact. Reputational damage also is an impact. And then there are several other, impacts that phishing may actually cause. So let's look at phishing and social engineering side by side, right? So we say phishing and social engineering. So the both of them tend to exploit human behavior. Now, this is very important because most time when they talk of human behavior, people don't really want to understand. And so people will ask, okay, what is the relationship between human behavior and cybersecurity? So most time I respond to them that the ethics and culture in the cyberspace is what human behavior is actually related to. So we have phishing, we have social engineering, and we have told us that the both of them, exploit human behavior. But nonetheless, we say phishing is phishing is when you trick individuals to share sensitive information. So you are tricking them just like 419 do. And then the general word is when you physically or psychologically manipulate people. Yeah, right? You psychologically manipulate people. So if you do psychology now, it means whatever people are thinking, you have it in your head, and you can actually make use of that information to lure them into giving out some sensitive data. So social engineering is more or less, an umbrella word that both phishing and others are under, right? And we also say delivery method. Now, by delivery method, most attackers, when they want to deliver all that they have built, how do you think they go about delivering it? I don't know if there's anybody that wants to say something about that. How do you think hackers, you know, deliver things like this with considering the situation of things? Anybody? Anybody wants to try? Even though we can look at this on our screen, right? So for phishing, we say phishing is done by deploying or deployed through emails, through messages, and through fake websites. So these guys can decide to develop their tool to only target websites, right? To only target websites, they can develop the tools to target messages and then emails, right? Also, some of our social media platforms also, right? So they can always send these things through this channel, through emails, through messages, and through fake websites. So for social engineering, mostly they do what we call impersonation because If you are following somebody to gain access into a building, you're impersonating that person. If you also decide to go to, let's say, I'm thinking of a better scenario to paint this impersonation. But I really know, I believe we all know what impersonation is, right? So you pretend to be somebody, and all of the benefit of that person is accrued to you, right? So that is what I am talking about. Now, we have another technique called baiting, just like we have seen, and quid pro quo, right? So just like we can see. So I believe also that maybe other things are there to also add, just like I mentioned earlier, right? So email messages, the social media handle, WhatsApp, and all whatnot. You see people saying, click this link to get this, that, or do this to do that, right? So all of these are ways in which a what is it called, a threat actor can actually use to deploy their malicious devices and activities. So let's move ahead and look at how do you identify which email is fake, or whether this email is fake or not. So I don't know if anybody can, throw more light on it from your own perspective. Look at this image keenly and tell us whether this document is genuine or not. Is there anybody that wants to try? Okay, since no one wants to try, let me go ahead. So, like we said earlier, you look at some basic things in the message, right? First of all, you read the message to know what the message is talking about. So the message is a dear customer. For the fact that I've seen dear customer is already is one of the red flags, right? Because if the message was to a particular person, for instance, if you look up there, they say the message was to David. So to David can be David's Gmail or whatever address that is there, right? And then the person knows that this message is going to maybe David and I saying, dear customer. Like we say, when it is generic, the name is generic, right? You suspect it. Now they are saying, we regret to inform you that your account has been restricted. What are they trying to do? They are trying to put in panic, right? They are trying to make you to maybe panic and then try to seek for guidance, right? So, and then I continue that to continue using our service or services, you please download the file attached to this email and update your login information. So also, after creating panic, they are now giving you a solution. Nobody is inviting you to come to their office and all whatnot. So when you see this image and this message now, nothing should even prevent you from knowing that, okay, this is actually a malicious guy or cyber criminals, right? So, like we have told us, look out for spelling, grammars, look out for several other things for the need of urgency. Look for the need of urgency. Look for the need of, authority. You must do this, or you have to do this to allow this happen, or to allow this work, right? So all of these things are things you need to look at while you don't download. Please do not download any file into your system that is not officially sent to you. And even if the file is officially sent to you, you still have the right not to download it. You have to validate second validation of that file, calling the person to know why the file is sent and all whatnot, if it's something that is genuine before you actually go into it. So you don't just click on anything, right? So there's no clicking on anything. So let's also progress. So identifying fake emails, messages, and links. So we are looking at spotting red flags now. So if it is an email that is sent to you, what you should be looking out for is the suspicions, whether the sender is suspicious, what is the address of the sender, the spelling errors. So if there are spelling errors in the message, you will also raise an eyebrow, right? So mismatch domain. So like I explained to us, if the message is coming from maybe peter@google.com, and tomorrow you come down, you see xyz@google.com, right? You should raise concern. The domains must, match, right? Then if you look at messages, the tactics they use urgent tone. You have to do this to get this. Those urgency, they use it. Unsolicited requests, right? Unsolicited requests, what you do not demand for, you are getting it at a platter of gold, right? A message that you did not send somebody to send you a message, but they have sent you a message and you are enjoying the message, right? So anything that you do not solicit for shouldn't be given to you, right? Anything that is unsolicited, you shouldn't open it, right? And then we say anything that is too good to be true offer is also another message tactics, right? So for fake news, all we just need is when you see a fake link, right? Just use your mouse, hover across the link. You will see the full URL of the link. Then check it out for you to check and know whether so for fake links, you have to hover your mouse on it to check whether the URL are complete or not. And then you shouldn't click on any link anyhow, especially those short links. Do not click on links anyhow, especially those, especially those shortened links, right? So do not allow for that. Then we look at how attackers manipulate. What are the things that they are interested in when they want to manipulate people, right? So we look at attackers' techniques. One of them is exploiting trust, right? So they pretend to be manager or IT support. So they are exploiting trust, right? To induce panic. Some of them, want to make you to panic, right? Tell you, oh, this thing has been deleted, and you now get panic, right? So you now get fearful, and then panic comes in, right? And then the last one is use familiarity. So since and the man, using familiarity. So they will just come as if they are one of the senior person in the organization, right? So to get particular information that they are not supposed to get. So reference known colleagues or events. So anytime we do training for references, for me to prevent people from hiring, we have, somebody from the HR and then somebody from the security to man and manage our um, to, to manage this, right? So some of them use this familiarity, and also some of these criminals can come and stay with you for a very long time, right? They can live with you for a very long time, all just to build trust, to make you trust in them, right? To make you trust in them and have trust in them. And at the end, they'll go ahead and then, strike you, right? They'll go ahead and then strike you. So trust is very, very important in all of these things. And then the use of familiarity also is their techniques. These are the major techniques and patterns that and cyber criminals uses to carry out attack on the carry out an attack on their target system, right? So, and they have all of these techniques to themselves to use in doing this. So this is it for phishing and social engineering. And I believe that so many of us, we understand what social engineering is today and what phishing is also. So when people talk about phishing to you, right, I believe we should be able to explain in details what phishing is like and what social engineering also is like, right? So we will draw the curtain here for today. And then if there are questions, maybe we take questions, one or two questions before we close the class. So any questions so far, please? Any question? Timmy, you want to ask a question? I hope all that we have been explaining is quite understood. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. I don't know what happened. I've been trying to do some recordings, but I think maybe I have a hardware challenge on my device.
Doctor,
Okay,
you have
go ahead.
a small problem, but I think it is still okay. The network has been very bad. I have been on the other side and I've been listening. So far, you have done well, and I understand everything you have said in respect of the lecture. But I think your network is fluctuating, or is it mine? I don't know.
Okay, I don't know if it's from my end, but I think since it's recorded, definitely you will get anybody that listens to it will get a full understandable class, whether network or without network.
Are you ending the class because of the network, or because you are done?
Well, I'm actually done with what I have for us for this evening.
Okay.
Yes. So we hope to. I was also explaining that this class is supposed to be for a recorded session, but I recorded, but I don't know if maybe my device is having a challenge because I have done some recording, but when I play them, I don't hear them. I think there was one I
Okay.
even did earlier with the Google Meet that even was sent to the emails, but yet it was not clear. No, but I couldn't hear anything from it. So I think I'll just have to work on my hardware. I think the problem should be from maybe the microphone from my hardware.
The speaker, the microphone. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it's all
Uh,
right.
yeah.
But we still have lecture tomorrow then.
Yes. Of course.
Okay.
Of
It's all right, doctor. No problem.
Yes. Okay,
My
guys.
regards,
So let's call it a night here, and then we proceed tomorrow.
it's all right. My regards to the family.
They will hear. Thank you very much.